Streaming. Let's scroll up.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite guys on YouTube there, Decker Shadow. He's always talking about YouTube algorithm fucking him.
Oh, that's weird. It's on fucking. Got too much crap open, maybe? Alright, Control Alt Delete. Task Manager. Let's see, what shit we gonna kill here. Um. Let's kill Discord. We don't need that. End
Prepare
task.
the executions.
Cortana, you can fuck right off. Um.
God, I hate Corton. She's so fucking annoying. God damn it.
It was cool for like a split second. We're like, oh,
Yeah,
cool, I got the voice from him. Alright, now fuck off.
exactly.
Oh,
Alright.
I hate that bitch on my Xbox.
Beautiful.
It's like they're trying so hard to copy Apple's Siri. Just no, please stop.
Alright.
Damn it. Why can't they have a redneck version of that shit or something? No, like for a GPS. All right, you go down the road a little bit, then you go take a left,
What would
then you
they?
go a little
What,
ways down, take a right.
what would they call it? Sally Mae. Anyways.
Sally Mae!
There we go, Sally Mae. Hey, Sally Mae, how do I get to the liquor store?
Oh my
Which,
god, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah,
which
if you,
liquor store? There's about 20.
yeah, if you get on down to the hobo there, you've gone too far. You want to back up a little bit.
Oh, fuck, which hobo? There's about 4 of them around here. The one that stinks really bad. That don't narrow it down at all, damn it.
Shit! Don't to everybody in the stream, all two of you. We'll get there in a hot minute. There's some phenomenally, or at least what I'd call phenomenally good news. I might even take a chance and just play the clip from the fucking house floor because it didn't look like it was a newscast. So let's see. The Branding Animal Cruelty Act. I only found a page on this so far. I'll just read it off as far. A bipartisan bill sponsored by Representative Ted Dutch, representative from Vern Bachman. Oh, by the way, for everybody who always likes to make fun of Florida Man, here's one time where they did something worth his shit, as opposed to torturing animals, or all the other memes about Florida Man. The 2010 Animal Crush Video Prohibition Act is limited in scope. Wow, okay, that's already a little whatever. The Animal Crush Video Prohibition Act was passed by the House 416-3. Are there that many damn people in the House? Later signaled into law on December 9th, 2010. So yeah, I did hear about this being a new revision act. Well, maybe this is the old one. The 2010 Act makes it a crime to create or distribute videos that depict non-human mammals, birds, reptiles, or amphibians being intentionally crushed. Oh yeah, this is the old one. So I didn't know that there specifically was a law that punished people for crushing animals. You think it would have just been animal abuse, but this seems oddly specific.
Well,
Burned.
I feel like that's probably one of the bigger issues that people tend to go with. Because when you have a snake, let's say snakes, snakes can't be. The common way to put down like a rodent or something is to like a chamber, or some kind of like oxygen gas chamber of some sorts. But to put down something like a snake, you have to crush the head, and I imagine that people tend to do that quite a bit, or because it's obviously a very specific crime that people are committing, and it's not always necessary to put down your animals, especially in such a brutal way. There are other ways to do it, but just because most methods won't work like that on a snake or some reptiles, and it's also, as Webkick says, it's like a fetish as well
Yeah,
for
no,
some people.
I've heard about those privated videos that people put up on the channels that they. I won't go too much into it. Intentionally crushed, burned, drowned, suffocated, impaled, or otherwise are subject to serious bodily injury, provided that such a video is obscene. Okay, and provided the creation or distribution is done in or affecting in separate to foreign commerce. However, in 2010 does not make the underlying crushing, burning, drowning, suffocating, impaling, or other animal cruelty a federal crime. Well, we'll get to that in a hot minute here. The PACT Act would strengthen the 2000 law. That's where we are now. The purpose of the PACT Act is to strengthen the 2000 law that makes the depictions of animal cruelty a crime, but allows the cruelty itself to go unpunished. Wait. Wait. So if I'm understanding that right, the original law only punished the distribution of the video, but not the actual act itself. Is that how that's being read there?
That's how it
I'm looking at it
sounds.
now.
Yeah, that's wow. Well, okay,
Yeah, it's like
that sounds like a horrendous loophole. All right, so you guy who actually tortured the animal, you're free to go. You there with those videos or flash drives and shit, get your ass in the truck right now. Okay, that's a pretty strong loophole. The PACT Act would make it a federal crime for any person to intentionally engage in an animal crushing if animals or animal crushing is in substantial effects or uses a means to facilitate or interstate foreign commerce. The term animal crushing for the purposes of the Prohibition Act means the same thing as it does in regards to the depiction banned in 2010. So all the burning, drowning, suffocating, so forth and so on. Wow, that's just heavy reading that out loud. The PACT Act would not rewrite the 2010 law. It would be limited to interstate commerce and federal property. That doesn't sound interstate commerce and federal property. Well, obviously you think that, people shouldn't be torturing animals on federal property. What do they mean by interstate commerce?
interstate commerce. Basically, I want to say it's going from like one state to another. Like if I'm selling a video of me crushing a dog or some shit or another, and I'm selling it to somebody in Texas.
So interstate commerce refers to the purchase, sale, or exchange of commodities, transportations of people, money, or goods, and navigation of waters between different states.
Okay, that should be more interesting. They'll probably, I'm assuming that there's already going to be written language explaining how that's going to work on the internet. So
Yeah, the the internet is so like wide, and
Yeah.
it's obviously such a ginormous issue to because when you put something on the internet, anyone can get their hands on it no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's just that's going to be kind of tough to deal with.
So
Oh shit! Especially when it starts going inter countries.
okay,
Yeah, that too in our countries
So
as well.
I believe it was New Mexico. It's still a bit early, but I know that there's a couple of states, or at least one, where they specifically, I forgot whether it was far later where somebody said that there are places in the U.S. where it wasn't explicitly legal at the state level to have sex with an animal. Now, he wasn't advocating for it at the time. I don't know where Farleto's brain is these days. But
Oh my lord! According to what I've seen, apparently Hawaii, Kentucky, Nevada, New Mexico, Ohio, Texas, Vermont, West Virginia, Wyoming, and the District of Columbia is where bestiality is still legal.
well, unless I'm reading this wrong, it says the same thing at the federal and interstate commerce. So basically, and I'm not a legal expert, if they're doing it in that state, is it still legal the way this is written, as long as they don't take it across state lines? Is that how that goes?
So bestiality. So this has been kind of like a big argument, hasn't it? That bestiality and animal abuse are two different things. At least from what I've heard, that people who are pro bestiality try to argue that animals can consent and that
That's not likely
it's
to have
not
any.
abuse.
That's not going to likely
like,
to have any kind of legal bearing. But go ahead.
Yeah, but isn't the PAC law about abuse and like animal cruelty? It says crushing, burning, drowning, suffocating, etc.
Yeah.
So would the thing about bestiality is just like it's sex with the animals. So to ban that federally is not. I don't think they will. But I don't think it falls under abuse because apparently these states have it legal in the first place, so they don't think it's abuse.
Well, again, let's see. It's provided such a video is obscene. I mean, obscenity is open to massive interpretation, and I don't think a lot of judges and juries are going to have a hard time prosecuting someone having sex with an animal as an obscene act.
Well,
Yeah,
two things. More often than... Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bubba.
Well, I was going to say more often than not, usually in the case of bestiality, usually they just end up slapping the guy on the wrist, giving him some probation, and he's got to pay a fine or some shit or another. Because I know for a fact, here's a town here in Louisiana, a little town called Winfield. Dude got caught fucking a quarter horse and everything like that because his wife didn't want to give him none, and he told her, "I'm getting some tonight, one way or the other." So they decided to punish him by giving him probation, and he had to pay a fine, and that was about it. But now, to retroactively speak it, now some places may not consider bestiality it's in and of itself animal abuse, but the way around that would be it could be considered abuse if it causes severe bodily injury. Like let's say if I screw a dog or something and it starts bleeding to death. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask a quick question. Did he have to register as a sex offender?
I doubt it. This was back in the mid-90s.
Yeah, probably not.
Wait, do you have to register as a sex offender if you have sex with an animal?
Well, I mean, it's okay. So just for things that I've heard, and again, I don't have like case law in front of me. I've heard situations where like someone peeing on the side of the road can have to register as a sex offender. Now, do I think that's fair? Not exactly. No, I think that's a bridge too far. Do I feel that a fine would be in order? Absolutely, but I don't feel that someone should have to be lumped in with pedophiles because they had to pee on the side of the road.
Well, if they did it like in front of a school, or if they did it in front of like the school board office,
yeah, it's kind of different. It depends because like, it's just some people are. I completely get having to, if you have to go, you have to go. And pulling over is obviously a better option than going in your car or something. But you just have to. The whole point is like, to the best that you can, find some sort of cover so it's not like a public.
No, yeah, and here's the thing: I'm not advocating for people.
No, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm a bit more understanding, and I just would hate to think that someone, because their brows are full, had their life ruined, and has to explain the long-winded.
Sucks, but it does happen. Yeah, no. It's like, can you imagine? You just like you have to go around knocking on neighbors' doors. And it's like, so I peed on the side of the road, and now I registered as a sex offender, and I'm obligated to tell you as such.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be really sucky and awkward to just.
I mean, as long I'd feel obligated to look it up to make sure he wasn't blowing smoke up my ass. But if that were the case, I wouldn't be too worried about it. The PACT Act would not permit interference with local animal cruelty laws or enforce the bill would be a federal overlay, exactly like the Federal Animal Act. Interfere with local animal laws. So, from what I understand, all federal or all state laws are things that aren't laid down from the federal level. So I think when they say it wouldn't interfere, I'm thinking it's going to override some of the things that go on in New Mexico. I don't know. I'll have to look into that.
It might not, because federally, let's take the age of consent, for example. Federally, it is 14, but each state obviously creates its own laws based on what the senators and whatever of that state think is morally correct in their eyes. So it's like, it's the same with any law. Basically, they can take anything and change it so that it fits what they feel is correct, in not only for them morally, as well as if what they think is best for their people.
Yeah, because originally when the United States was originally founded, each state was supposed to be its own little separate country in a sense, while the federal government is only supposed to deal with the outside world, basically. If memory serves me correctly, that was the original founding of it.
Yeah, you're talking about the Articles of Confederation. I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay. But now, to go take a step back retroactively just a second there, talk about with the animal abuse thing, though. Now, I'd imagine a way to loophole around that is, let's say they can't charge you for bestiality because it's legal in one state. But now, let's say you're screwing something like a dog and that sucker's almost bleeding to death, then they can nail you with cruelty to an animal.
Well,
but let's say if you screw a cow and it don't cause no damage, because let's face it, look how big a cow is compared to a human. It'd just be like, oh, you're just a sick bastard, go home.
Well, there's another thing there. It said interstate laws. I'm imagining if you threw it up online, you could easily argue as a district attorney that this is now crossed out and been distributed to various other people. I don't know how visits work on websites and shit. I mean, obviously, if you were dumb enough to put it on a website that worked like YouTube that showed the number of views, you could call that each view as an act of distribution. I know there's redundancy, but I know for like cases of like child pornography, the same picture counts as like multiples for like the purposes of cash. So yeah, if you feel that's unfair, just don't do it. That'd be
exactly. Don't do it in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like, look, if you need to get laid badly enough, go find a crack whore for about $10.
All right. So,
there's so many different like ways that you can have sex. Just to please, not with the children and not with the animals, for the love of God.
Oh, son of a bitch! So I'm gonna play this here and call.
All right.
support of H.R. 724, the Preventing Animal Cruelty and Torture Act, or the PACT Act. I want to give special thanks to my Florida colleague, Congressman Buchanan. He is a long-standing friend of animals in Congress, and I'm thrilled that he agreed to introduce this bill with me to create a federal law punishing those who abuse animals. I also would like to acknowledge Congressman Holding and the hard work by groups like the Humane Society and Humane Rescue Alliance, who have helped collect 290 bipartisan co-sponsors for this bill. There are so many groups and people from across the country who have supported this bill. People like Lisa Vanderpump, who added her passionate commitment to animals to our effort, and groups who rescue animals literally in every corner of our country every single day. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank one person in particular, Mr. Speaker, a high school student, one who is so committed to helping animals, caring for animals, that when she learned about the PACT Act, she started an online petition hoping to collect a few thousand signatures. That petition urging Congress to pass this bill gathered over 729,000 signers. And I'm thrilled that that young activist, Sydney Helfand, is with us in the gallery today. Now, of all the divisive issues here in Washington, the PACT Act is one on which we can all agree. We must make animal abuse a federal crime. This bill has received so much bipartisan support because Americans care about animal welfare. We form deep relationships with our companion animals and are rightfully outraged by cases of animal abuse. Animal rights activists stand up for living things that do not have a voice. That's what the PACT Act does. Americans expect their law enforcement agencies to crack down on this horrific violence against animals, and law enforcement officers agree, which is why the PACT Act has been endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police, the National Sheriff's Association, the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, and local law enforcement agencies across the country. They have asked for this federal law to bolster their efforts to target animal abusers because they understand the direct link between animal abuse and violent crimes. This link is why the FBI now collects data on acts of cruelty against animals for their criminal database, right alongside felony crimes like assault and homicide. When I first came to Congress, one of the first bills I voted on was the...
I wanted to comment on that when it said along, what was it, a homicide, and what was the other one?
Shit.
Yeah,
I think homicide and assault, I think he said.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
But my question here is, I noticed he didn't say, and I... on one side, I'm kind of a little disappointed because he didn't equate it to child abuse. But seeing as how underpunished that is, maybe that's for the best. Maybe this will be handled more seriously. Not that I'm saying that the other one shouldn't be handled better, but I'm saying maybe this law will have more teeth than the other one has. So, you know.
Animal Crush video.
Or this... Oh.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, or this could also be a stepping stone to use to start really cracking down hardcore on child abuse as well.
Yeah.
Because with animal abusers, like this dude just said, that is a stepping stone that a lot of serial killers and stuff do. They start torturing small animals, defenseless animals, to get that power rush.
You had a little bit of a Freudian slip where you said us serial killers there, Bubba. I know what you meant, though.
A bill
my bad.
that nearly unanimously passed. And it made it a crime to create or distribute Animal Crush videos which depict horrific acts against violence. This bill today takes the next logical step and criminalizes those acts underlying that crime as well. The Senate passed the PACT Act by unanimous consent in the last two Congresses, and I'm proud the House is finally doing its part to pass this important legislation. Today, anyone who inflicts serious bodily injury on animals will be committing an act for which they should be condemned. When the PACT Act passes, they will also be violating federal law. I thank the Speaker. I urge my colleagues to support the PACT Act, and I reserve the balance.
Okay, there we go. So, let's take a look at the chat a little bit. What do you guys think? Tinder exists. Why animals? There's plenty of other alternatives out there. I mean, if you really need like a middle ground, I mean, there's plenty of furries who'll dress up like an animal for you, I suppose. I was seeing some people were having a backlash about this online, and they're like, it doesn't go far enough. People are still allowed to eat meat. And I'm like, oh, thank God. I was a little worried there for a minute. Yeah, no one's calling for that except for like some of the more extremist left wing nuts. I would have been horrified if I would have been like, oh, I better have my last hamburger right now. Hopefully, we can start a movement against that. So yeah. Some of the complaints, well, it doesn't stop hunting, it doesn't stop, people farming, it doesn't stop people,
Well, farming being a crime is a ginormous, like, that creates so many issues.
Yeah.
Simply because there are so many farmers who rely on, their farms for income, and that's taking thousands, if not millions of people out of jobs and houses, and that's horrible. I understand that you want to have, because every single animal is beautiful, and I understand that, some people do treat the animals terribly in these farms, but not everyone does, and to shut down all these places, and not only is that creating massive overpopulation of animals like cows and chickens, but that's taking lots of people out of jobs, and that's just too many issues.
Yeah.
And I know plenty of cattle.
Yeah, and on top of...
As Equus points out, raising livestock isn't the same as animal abuse.
Yeah. And on top of all that, cows eat grass. Grass basically creates, oxygen. Us eating the cows is helping. Now I'm gonna stop.
It's a silly point, but at the same time, there's vegetarians. Vegetarians eat plants, and we need plants to survive because they create oxygen. So they're killing us just as much as we're killing them. What are we gonna do next? Ban the eating of plants because we need those for oxygen?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell am I gonna eat then? Dirt?
No, you can't eat the dirt either because that provides minerals for all the animals. You can't eat anything. Yep. You're just gonna have to nothing. You're just gonna have to starve.
Jesus Christ. These people.
Yeah.
That's the problem with these people wanting to push all this extra stuff, because it just creates more issues, and then more people are gonna want to push even more stuff. And where do we draw the line at that point?
Yeah. And then when they talk about if somebody says they want to try to ban hunting, well, hell, that's going to totally be a bad idea, because Jesus Christ. Look up into Connecticut a few years back. They had a real severe deer overpopulation. People were hitting deer in their vehicles left and freaking right, and you had all kinds of Lyme disease, all kinds of diseases that were deer bred that could spread to human beings, going crazy, till they finally had to say, okay, look, we banned hunting. We got to turn it around. Start killing as many deer as you want.
Yeah, see, the thing with that is that there are good things like that, because overpopulation becomes a serious issue, especially if there aren't enough predatory animals around to eat something like deer. And that's where hunting seasons come into place, because hunting seasons are much different than hunt whenever the hell you want. When there's hunting seasons, it's a period of time where you can hunt these animals, and, obviously there are restrictions to how many you can take down. And it's good because then it's just like, yeah, it's good because then it helps keep populations down, and people, have the fun of hunting and get some extra food out of that too.
Not only that, but also they're plus with the hunting as well, keeping overpopulation levels down and everything. But also you're doing with conservation methods with the overpopulation. You're taking out also a lot of diseased animals, possibly that are diseased, to help keep disease from spreading.
That too.
Yeah, I forgot to do the intro at the beginning here, so I'm joined by John Bubba as well as Mint Hart, for anybody who didn't pick up on the... if you've heard Bubba, you probably know who he is by now.
That's true. Me, I'm not so frequent on these streams, but hello ski to everybody out there.
Indeed.
Yeah, howdy everybody.
Pop back over. Rainbow Dash, hello. Yeah, things that slow down a skosh. I'm trying not to... There's a couple of things I was thinking about making a video on, but since I saw this literally just pop up, and I feel ashamed to know that I only heard about it after it passed, so people always talk about, politics is the same tired old thing over and over again, but I guess, there are important things that just sort of pass through and get drowned out by the popular topics that the news runs into the goddamn
No, that's
ground.
very true. I only heard, if I wasn't in limbo paying attention to the chat, I would not have heard about this, so... thanks for bringing it to our attention, Anthony. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I definitely would have learned about this, who knows how many months later.
To give credit where credit is due, Miggs, who long since left, wound up throwing it to me, and I was like, oh, freaking great show, man. I again, I'd like to have thought. I think I'm the first person of the people I follow. I even wound up tweeting this at Mr. Medicare because he's always seemed so doom and gloom about everything and being black pilled. But hey, it's something bipartisan. It seems serious enough. I don't know how long that the bill was worked on, but it definitely seems like it's something worth covering. And as opposed to, I guess, screaming at a video game company. But yeah, I thought this was just slightly more serious there on this point here.
So, Equus wants to know if we can talk about the Wild Horse and the Boris Act or Burro Act.
Could somebody pull me up a link? I'll throw it in.
Oh, sure. I found it. Let me.
Wait.
I just
Wild
looked it up.
Horse
and Burro Act. So let me.
I think I've actually heard of that. That was VQ's Heart. Stop me if I'm wrong, but that's something along the lines of killing the wild horses. I want to say in Wyoming, I believe it is.
I tossed it into Skype if you want to take a look at it, Bubba. In Limbo.
Here's something about that. Let me.
All right, let's take a looky-loo here. The Wild Free Roaming Horse and Burros Act. I keep wanting to say burrito. Wild Free.
Well, they can make a burrito.
Yeah, Act of 1971, the Public Law of 92, was amended as follows. Sections 13 and 33 are modified by the Public Regional Improvement Act of 1978. Now, this thing's 1 year older than I am. It's modified by the Federal Land Policy and Management Act of 1976. I'm still waiting for him to say pursuant to and by. And Public Land of Management Act of 1996. God damn, I usually love the law for all its little intricacies and loopholes and stuff, but it does start to get tiresome after you read too many. So skipping ahead here, Congress finds and declares that the wild, free, roaming horses and burros are living symbols of the historic pioneer spirit of the West. They contribute to the diversity of life forms within the nation and enrich the lives of the American people. That these horses and burros, I know a bunch of people like, oh, look at that, the Bernie Channel talking about horses. Yeah, there you go. Are fastly disappearing from American scene. It is the policy of Congress that a wild, free, roaming horse and burros shall be protected from capture, branding, and harassment or death. And to accomplish this, they are to be considered in the area where presently found as an integral part of natural system of public lands. As used in this act, Secretary means the Secretary of the Interior when used in connection with the Public Lands Administration, by whom the Bureau of Land Management and Secretary of... Oh, god damn, this goes on for a while. Skipping ahead, while free roaming horses and burro means all unbranded and unclaimed horses and burros on public land in the United States. Range means the land necessary to sustain in existing herds or herds, wild free roaming horses which does not exceed their known territory and limits. Skimming through public lands. I'm just skipping over the burros, duties, and secretary jurisdictions, management ranges, ecology. Here we are. Let's see. Hopefully this isn't so technical. All wild free roaming horses and burros are hereby declared to be under the jurisdiction of the Secretary for the purposes of management and protection in accordance with the provisions of this act. I'm actually curious to see what part of, is law enforcement or park rangers supposed to be in charge of, enforcing this?
Oh, I think I'm actually looking at it right now.
Oh, yeah, that's one of those things, I guess, for example, the PACT Act that just passed. Is that something that's going to be enforced by the FBI? Is FBI the only governing federal enforcement of laws?
Oh, no. It depends on the situation. Like with the FBI, they are pretty much like for the lack of a better term, multi-role law enforcement. While ATF, the alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives, they handle mostly those things. ICE, mostly with immigrations and customs. But a lot of times, federal agencies also link up on certain cases that might have something to where they might have something to do with each one, like drug smugglers or something. The ATF and the DEA and the FBI could join in on a bus like that.
Well, yeah, because let's see, what exactly is the jurisdiction? What duties are relegated specifically to the FBI?
The FBI mostly deals with, if memory serves me right, it's mostly dealing with like counterterrorism, hostage situations. Let's see, kidnappings. Let's see, murders that cross state lines. Let's see, bank robberies over a certain amount of money. God, I'm trying to remember all of them. God, I'm trying to remember all of them. Because I was
Doesn't
actually
the
looking at
FBI
this.
also handle some sorts of like the child sex rings and such,
Yeah.
and checks and sex
Yeah,
trafficking and stuff like that as well?
they do those as well. Let's see. God, I'm trying to remember all of them because I was looking into this because, like I say, I wanted to be an FBI agent when I was younger.
Yeah, there's a
Mostly, I wanted
lot
to
that
go.
the FBI covers, so they're very
Yeah,
busy
they like.
people.
Yeah, that's why they also do stuff as well as like with the internet crimes as well, not just like let's say pirating movies, pirating direct TV, stuff like that.
Yeah, they just cover a whole bunch.
Yeah, they're a multi-role organization. They especially go with organized crime. Holy fuck, that's like their bread and butter.
Well, I was just amused to say it. So basically, if you're looking at Putlocker, the FBI could kick in your door one day. Interesting. Not that we've ever used that service. The secretary shall cause an additional excesses, wild, free roaming horses and burros. What exactly is a burro?
It's a donkey.
Oh, okay. I was picturing a place. I was like, is that a burrow, a place where the horses are? Adaptation demands for qualification individual does not exist to be destroyed in the most inhumane, efficient way. What exactly did what's his name want us to read off from here? Was there something that he wanted to discuss, or?
As I know EQ's Heart mentioned something along that. I believe it was EQ's Heart you said, Mint.
Yeah. Did he have a point that he's? Because it is rather lengthy, and my voice would have probably gave out at some point in time. Let's just see how goddamn massive this thing is. Pretty big.
It's 8 pages.
Okay, it's pretty big. Arrest and appearance for examination and trials. I'm not saying it's not important, but I don't know many horse wranglers in my area. How about you?
Well, I think because if you look at the thread back where they talk about the PACT Act, a lot of people were talking about how those animals are abused and mistreated a lot. You know, I was reading the thread,
Yeah.
and yeah, a lot of people were upset that they're nothing to do with the horses, the wild horses and burros.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I think I know what they're talking about there. Because a lot of them, I've seen some videos in the past of people with going out hunting for them and everything to try to catch them and break them illegally, and then you falsify paperwork to show that this was my horse. You know, illegally branded and everything. Basically, just go out in the wild, catch a damn horse, come home, break it, brand it, it's yours.
Yeah, and as Equise points out, they say that they use helicopters to chase them. A lot of horses are literally run to death.
Yeah.
So as an animal lover, to see that the PACT Act is covering, certain things and not other things, I suppose is actually very upsetting for a lot of people. As I said in the thread, there was lots of people who were upset that they weren't talking about that as well.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That I imagine this PACT Act would also go into helping help nail people to the wall to do something like that, actually giving that law more teeth into it when they start committing cruelty to them, like chase them with the chopper to run them to death, or trying to use that chopper to run them till they're so exhausted and jump down there and catch them and brand them and, falsify paperwork.
Oh, here we go.
That way they can get a free horse.
There's one.
Yeah, and that's just like really messed up.
Jesus. So the U.S. has passed the ball. Just seeing if there's anything new in here we missed. 2 Florida congressmen. We've covered all that. 2010. Same old, same old. Violators can face criminal penalties of a fine, prison term up to 7 years. There we go. Something kind of new. Said that law enforcement has sought federal guidelines to help them stop animal abusers who are believed to be more likely to commit acts of violence against humans. Passing the law sends a strong message that this behavior will not be tolerated. It will continue to work with Congressman Dutchman. Signed into law. So if it's only got through the House of Representatives, does it still have to go through the Congress now? And hopefully, I would hope, Nacho President doesn't veto it. Anyways,
I don't think he will, because can you imagine the massive backlash for vetoing such an act like
I
this?
would be like, why are you doing this? No, it still does have to go through Congress, and I'm assuming since it's so overwhelmingly popular, I'd be lost why they would, but I like dealing in worst case
Well,
scenarios.
don't most bills not have to be necessarily run by the president because the president doesn't necessarily like have a say in stuff like that? Like the president has power, but not, from what I remember, not much more than
Well,
Congress has.
Well, I noticed that they said that there was only like 3 dissenters, so even if it did get vetoed, they'd have the 3/4 to overrule.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. They can overrule such an act because,
Yeah.
from my understanding, the president can't really do much, and Congress holds a lot of the power.
Yeah.
Well, if memory serves me right, when the Congress makes the law and passes it or whatever, and the president has final say of going ahead and going with it, or no, we ain't going to run with it. If memory serves me correct.
Democracy.
Damn it.
Democracy. Well, that's been around since the founding fathers. He does have the right to veto. I don't think he would, but I mean, there's.
If he does, that guarantees he's not. No one's gonna want him in office for 110% sure. A lot of people love animals.
He did drop the ball.
Maybe the really old people, but who knows?
He did drop the ball on what was it? It was something to do with the internet that just sort of passed through. That it happened on his watch.
Net neutrality?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly it.
Net
yeah, and that was
neutrality.
like he has dropped the ball once or twice, and whether that was the right move or not, which I kind of preferred net neutrality stay in. There was enough support from it by a lot of people, and in spite of all that. So I
another thing is, but like for him to drop the ball on something like animal cruelty, it's just that would make him look incredibly bad.
Oh no!
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of even what would be the financial gains. So no, I don't think that'll happen.
I mean, there's nothing to gain from saying no to having some punishment to people who abuse animals.
I did actually just think of one thing.
What?
Use it as leverage because he's like, well, you guys aren't playing game with me on my wall enough. Maybe I'll just say no to this just to be a bastard.
Oh, but that's so bad. Again, that's horrible.
Sad part is that come back.
And on top of that, isn't that like blackmail?
Well,
yeah, that's pretty much like.
You're gonna blackmail the entire country?
Well, technically speaking, that's all the government does is blackmail each other to get what they want. Anyways, that's how shit gets
blackmailing an entire country like that.
Well, blackmail is basically you're withholding some kind of evidence or some shit like that to do. He's not under an obligation to pass it through legally, so I don't know if it. Yeah, I don't think under the strictest legal terms of punishment that would constitute blackmail. In the spirit of it, perhaps you're right.
Yeah, that'd just be more like extortion or strong arming, basically,
Racketeering. We're not legal experts here. We're talking out our ass.
Which is pretty much politics in general, That's usually what it boils down to, arm twisting.
Well, I think we've actually got to the end of it here, guys. I've had a good time talking about this. I'll probably play with the thumbnail. Finally got my old computer back, so I might even game on this bitch later on.
Oh, nice, dude.
Yeah, there were other things I wanted to talk about, but they'd be way off target for this stream.
I mean, this could be topic for another time.
Yeah, no. And I'll hit